The Diary of Victor Frankenstein by Stephen J. Guscott. Extract 1. Dr. Victor Frankenstein. Date 1800s. It has been many years since my last entry into this, the record of my transgressions. Now I must prepare myself to be the most abhorred of beings in this world. How vain I have been, thinking to live a happy existence, and believing that all would be well. What a pleasant dream I have lived, only to have it shattered by news which has brought back terrible memories, and shown that I am the cause of so much death and suffering. What a liar I have been! What liars they have been! Deep down I knew that they would not keep their promises, but who was I to deny my creatures their desires? As much as it repulsed me, I could not refuse to compensate the creatures to whom I had given life. I hoped they would learn to be more noble, as they had promised. 1,000 curses on my wretched soul for not destroying that first monster. I had not the courage, and now it appears that with his mate he wishes to inflict pain on all humanity. I pledge myself now to investigate the reports that have reached me. I will atone. I cannot think straight. My thoughts and guilt threaten to drown me. I will try to record this story as best I can, but forgive me, please. It all began because I accepted, with great difficulty, the wish of the being to whom I had given life, and I fled to the Orkney Islands of the north east coast of Scotland to create another like him. A companion was all that he wanted. I was foolishly drawn into his justification and rationale, and so I made another. To me she was a poor imitation, and as distorted as he. I struggled to gaze upon them without repulsion and shame, without seeing the different proportions of limbs and imagining the person, nay people, it once had been. Yet to him she was what he desired, and once she breathed life, we spent several nightmarish days trying to calm and instruct her in the ways of communication and survival. I told him that his objective was to find somewhere remote and never seek to contact or to seek to be part of humanity. He agreed, and I naively hoped he would keep his vows and oaths. The day they left, I wrote my last entry and found solace in the fact it was over, that the creatures were gone forever. In that entry I tried to convey my revulsion at his use of the title, Father. I could only turn my back, and in a final dismissive wave show I wanted nothing more to do with him. He was a reminder of my obsession, of how I had flouted the laws of nature to assuage my own pride. With them gone, I wrote of how I could be with my beloved Elizabeth and my dearest friend Henry Clerval, and once more be in my father's society, never again to depart. I wanted to burn this diary because of everything else it contained. I wanted to put this far behind me, but for some unknown reason I could not bring myself to destroy these pages to which I now add. I stood there with a fire in front of me and this book in my hand, but something within me stopped me from consigning it into the flames. Instead, I wrapped it up and fastened the lock with the key that hung around my neck, and proceeded to bury the diary at the bottom of my travel box. Everything else was burned with purifying fire. I left gladly, and the further I travelled away from that place, the more the memories of what I had done faded. I soon met up with my esteemed Henry, and what a joy it was to be back amongst such noble company. Henry and I made our way from England to France, visiting Paris for a few days, and by the time I was home in Geneva, there was almost nothing left in my mind of the horrors that I had experienced and created. All of my thoughts were now focused firmly on starting my life with Elizabeth. How happy the following years were. Good company, the births of my 3 sons, and the fortune to enjoy various travels. It was not all tranquil and peaceful, though, and often I consciously limited my curiosity for learning and delving into the unknown. Instead, I have joyfully watched my children grow, and was at last able to take pleasure in the name Father. My younger brothers and my sons became men. They all pursued and learned honourable professions. I often cautioned them not to overly indulge in the pursuit of excelling beyond the normal status quo. The only true misery I experienced was having to say farewell to those I loved. First to he who gave me life, and then to Henry, and lastly to the one who loved me with such grace and devotion. It was last year that Elizabeth departed this life. My sons and I have found much solace in each other's company. It has been difficult without her, but I hoped I would live peacefully until I too was taken from this world to meet her once more. That now seems like a dream, and I am awakened to the true reality of the horrors I have created. Only 3 days ago, I was blissfully unaware of the shock that would put me on my current path and force me to recover this diary from its hiding place. I sat down to read the newspaper, and the article on the front page made all the horrors of my past life return. The article reported on a strange and gruesome occurrence on the other side of the world, in the far northwestern parts of the American continent, in the Russian-American colony. The article spoke of traders who, when they had ventured to a remote settlement for seasonal trade, discovered the population murdered. The lack of practical law enforcement in such areas has made it difficult to conduct investigations, especially with conflicts between Russia and American authorities. There had been no official reports made to any law enforcement, but one reliable source, I can only assume one of the traders, said that each victim was found with their limbs detached, as if torn off. The writer concluded it must have been some sort of animal, yet if that were true, there would have been signs of animals feeding, and there were none. Having read the last part of the article, I knew nothing but my creations could have separated the limbs that way. All I could see were their horrid faces laughing at me. I could only conclude that this had to be some act of hatred and malice by the creatures, and that they had broken their promise of long ago. They are wicked, fiendish, and unnatural. It would be of no surprise to me if they have grown envious of our fairer nature and appearance, and decided to wreak havoc, death, and destruction upon us. If only they had come for me, I would have received their vengeance with open arms. That is why I have opened this diary once more. I will not shy away from my duty any more, and to my deepest regret, I must bring those I love into this tale. Words cannot describe the pains of my heart that this must be done, but I am old and cannot do this alone. Reason and logic force me to take this course of action, and therefore, this time I write not out of a misguided duty to science and exploration, but to put on record my mistakes. For if I fail, I must trust this Herculean burden to my beloved son, Vincent. A long journey lies ahead of me. I will go to the settlement and track down the monsters, and with the improved weapons of this age, I will eradicate the scourge. I will not tell Vincent my reasons, but he will follow me if I tell him I wish to explore the living world before I follow Elizabeth into death. I have decided to venture east, assuming the monsters went from the Orkney Islands to Scandinavia, and for whatever reasons, have travelled ultimately to Russia. There is no guarantee that this was their course, but when we reach the settlement, I will know what to do next. I have told Vincent of my desire to journey around the world and through Russia, and then to the American continent. He has pleaded with me not to make this journey on account of my age. However, after much persuasion, I have convinced him that I am going, and that his company on this journey is imperative. He has agreed to come with me, to my relief and consolation. If I must, I will tell him of the truth, but not until I have confirmation that these monsters live. I do not want him to worry if he does not have to, and I cannot face the guilt of confessing my mistakes to him until I must.